We learn hadith, we learn the duas, we learn the duas, we learn the duas, we learn the duas. We love a prophet, we love a prophet, we love a prophet, we love a prophet. Abu Najma with kids. Abu Najma with kids. We learn Quran, we learn Quran, we learn Quran, we learn Quran, we learn Hadith.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are now at the Arena 1.
Luigi, just stand there.
And over here we have player of the day.
I'm back to beat Hamza's team.
Is it time?
I chose Surah Al-Mutaffifin. I don't know the names, but Nabi Isa said, I am a slave of Allah. Is it Prophet Luqman?
1 point for this team.
Welcome to Active Sunday.
Things which will happen at the last day, which is very shocking.
That's not fair because I wasn't here.
It's a happy, happy, happy day. Oh, what a happy day it is for Active Sunday.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Is investing money in different companies like Coca-Cola, Nestle, etc. for profit and loss permissible or not? The one asking the question, brother or sister, I advise you not to invest in such companies. First and foremost, because by and large, these companies do invest and deal in haram. And it's not accepted to deal in a company that is dealing with haram. So my advice to you, and what the scholars, by and large, the mainstream of the scholars advises, it's not permissible for us to invest in such companies. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Is investing money in different companies like Coca-Cola, Nestle, etc. for profit and loss permissible or not? The one asking the question, brother or sister, I advise you not to invest in such companies. First and foremost, because by and large, these companies do invest and deal in haram. And it's not accepted to deal in a company that is dealing with haram. So my advice to you, and what the scholars, by and large, the mainstream of the scholars advises, it's not permissible for us to invest in such companies. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Assalamu alaikum. Who annoys you most? How do we be around annoying people that we have to be? This is a really important question for me. And I remember being at a development course where I saw this guy who was so laid back and he was so chilled out. I mean, the way he spoke, the way he walked, the way he did everything. So I thought, you know what? This guy knows. So I went to him and I said, you seem like a great, calm, chilled out person. Can you tell me, how do you stay like that when you're around annoying people? So he said something which was very profound for me. He said, I just remember that however they're behaving is about them and not me. Now I had to think about this for a second, but I realized he was absolutely right. Most of the time, when people are annoying us, it's because they're behaving in a way we believe they shouldn't. And subconsciously, we believe that it's related to us or it's our fault in some way. This, of course, isn't true, because however someone chooses to react is down to them and the choices they make. So let's take an example. Imagine that I came to you and I verbally attacked you and I abused you. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel bad, right? What if a few minutes later I come back to you and I say, listen, everything I just said to you, it's all about me. It's got nothing to do with you. It's because of the stuff that's going on in my life right now. How do you feel? Better, right? You feel better even though I didn't apologize. Why? Because I've told you that it's not your fault. So the way to be around annoying people is to remember that their behavior has nothing to do with you. Now, one last question before I go. If you think I'm annoying, who is that about? You, right? So the real question is, who is the annoying person? Jazakallah khair for watching. Assalamu alaikum.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ikiwa ni tarehe 21 ya mwezi wa Dhulqaada mwaka 1440 sawia na tarehe 24 ya mwezi Julai mwaka 2019, karibu katika Sabah Show, awamu ya uchambuzi wa magazeti, tukipeperusha moja kwa moja katikati mwa jiji la Nairobi, msikiti wa Jamia, the premier Islamic station in Kenya, coming closer to you. Karibu sana, jina langu ni Ibtisam Jamal. Katika awamu yetu ya kwanza ya saa 2 hadi saa 3 tutaweza kuchambua magazeti. Katika awamu yetu ya pili ya saa 3 hadi saa 4 tutaweza kuwa na business chat. Na ili kuweza kuchambua magazeti siko peke yangu, niko na wenzangu. Kawaida nitaanza na mkono wangu wa kulia, Suleiman Oftumbo, ambaye ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kisiasa. Assalamu alaykum.
Wa alaykum salaam.
Karibu sana.
Nashukuru sana.
Na tuko na Abubakar Mushiri ambaye ni economist. Masuala ya uchumi yote yamebobea, si ndio? Assalamu alaykum.
Wa alaykum salaam.
Karibu sana katika Horizon TV Sabah Show. Sura ambayo imezoeleka na imetambulika, Edwin Ayiro, political analyst. Vipi hali?
Assalamu.
Uko tayari kuchambua magazeti?
Kama kawaida.
Haya, inshallah. Wacha tuanze, tukianza na People's Daily. Rotich PS charged with shilling 51 billion theft. Bilioni 51 inaweza kufungulia biashara wa Kenya wote humu nchini. Tukianza na Abubakar. Abubakar, bilioni, ukipewa bilioni 51 utaweza kuzifanyia nini? Na masuala ya kwamba Henry Rotich amepewa dhamana ya kuweza kusimamia pesa za Wakenya wote. Yeye ndo amekuwa charged.
First, when you talk about the issue of corruption, we have to commend the DPP for what he has done. Because it's not of late that we have seen such a big corruption scandal unraveled. You know, we need to give enough credit to this man. He has done a lot. Now, the ball rests in the courts, the justice system court. You know, it will depend. You know, we have had the issue of corruption cases taken to court. We had Waiguru, the 791 million, and other issues preceding those. But you know, the cases, the DPP does his job well. You know, and he takes the cases go to court. But you know, it takes very long for those cases to be solved. And we have not had. Yes, it's good that we have seen that the person is in court, but we want to see a sentence, a politician sentenced to some years in prison, because that is what is happening in other developed countries of Europe and such, when corruption is so big a sin and so big an economic crime in those countries. So what we need is to see now the justice system, how will it work? How will it implement, you know, this fight against corruption? Because as much as, you know, if one part is played and the other is left, it won't be complete. So we need now the justice system to work on this. We need to see people going to jail if they are guilty of whatever crimes they have been accused of. So now it's for us now to hope that our justice system will do its part.
Suleiman Oftumba ameweza kutaja masuala ya ufisadi na masuala ya mahakama. Ukiangalia kwamba kiongozi wa mashtaka anayesimamia kesi hii ni Taib Ali-Taib, anasifika kwa kesi zake. Wakenya sema kwamba kuna imani kwamba mwendesha mashtaka na kikosi chake wataweza kufanikisha kesi hii.
Dadangu, saa hizi hatungelikuwa tunazungumzia kwamba cabinet secretary Rotich. Tungelikuwa sasa hivi tunazungumzia aliyekuwa. Ukiangalia wakuu wa masuala ya kisheria wanasema kwamba actually if you look at how the western countries are working, if such a person has been suspect, wacha hajapatikana, amekuwa ni suspect wa masuala ya ufisadi, and is holding such an office, a big office in the country, then it's not something that we are supposed to be joking with. Mtu kama huyu yafaa tayari sasa hivi awe ameshachukuliwa sheria, ameshamaliza kubanduliwa kutoka kwenye ofisi, kwa sababu he is holding the Kenyan treasury. This is the person that we've given this office because tunamwaminia anaweza akashughulikia masuala yetu, anaweza akaangalia mambo ya pesa ya serikali. Lakini the same person is involved in such a scandal. We should be talking of a former CS, not a CS.
Ni kwamba ni sisi viongozi wa Afrika huwa tunachukua ugumu kuweza kujiuzulu katika nyadhifa zetu iwapo tunashtakiwa na masuala ya ufisadi.
Ni kwa sababu ni tabia. The way tunakuzwa, tumechukulia jambo la ufisadi kama jambo la kawaida.
Inaanza kuanzia mtoto, si?
Yeah, kwa sababu sasa hivi limekuwa ni kama jambo ambalo we are praising corruption in our society. We are praising people who are corrupt, but it should not be that way. Look at China. China, even if you are president and then you are suspected kuwa you are corrupt or you've done something against the ethics and codes and conducts of the office, immediately you are supposed to be removed from the office. Kwa hivyo si jambo ambalo yafaa sasa hivi tuwe tunalizungumzia, ni jambo ambalo serikali, mimi kwanza nitapatia kongole serikali kwa sababu what they are doing, we are heading to the best direction, na ningeliomba kwamba serikali kwa sasa hivi koti imepewa jukumu. You see? Wasiseme tu ya kwamba tumempa dhamana ya milioni 50 sasa hivi cash bail ya 15,000 alafu anatoka na mambo yanaisha hivyo. Asiruhusiwe kuingia ofisini na zile hela ambazo sasa hivi alikuwa ni mwenye misuse, awe ni mwenye kurudisha, na ile ofisi sasa hivi iwe vacant, watafute mtu ambaye anaweza akashughulikia jambo kama hili.
Katika The Standard ni magazeti yote yameweza kuangazia Henry Rotich, lakini angles tofauti. Yaani ukiangalia upana wa taarifa hii inaweza kusikitisha. Dramatic fail of Rotich just 24 hours. The Standard. Edwin, umeinuka katika nyumba yako, unajua kwamba unaenda kwa ofisi, lakini usiku wako siku mbili unaweza kushinda katika gereza ama katika jail ambapo unalala chini. Je, ni haki kwa viongozi kuweza kuwekwa katika katika environment kama hii licha kwamba amefanya maovu makubwa? Ya kuiba shilingi bilioni 51.
Yes, you know there is this aspect of comprehensive application of justice, and the rule of law states that nobody is above the law, and everybody is subject to applicable procedures and the provisions of the law. And by the virtue of fact that Mr. Henry Rotich is the cabinet secretary still of this Republic of Kenya, he is not immune to the application of the law. And yes, you never know what is held in the day until you get to every single minute, and then you see what is unfolding. Again, you look at the gravity of the charges placed on his head, and if you interrogate the penal code, you look at the Evidence Act, when you critically analyze these charges against the penal code and the Evidence Act, you realize that if these cases can be sustained through the process of prosecution up to the determination of the cases, and if found culpable, this guy is almost having a date with the noose. You get. Actually, it is a capital punishment, because you look at the threshold put around serious economic crimes cases, and this is a serious economic crime case. It's very, very grievous, and I just feel for him. But again, on one hand, on the other hand, I think he should have done the right thing. You see, this is one person who has plunged this country into a debt burden.
And we have money.
Yes, he has overtaxed Kenyans. He has dug the hole of public debt in such a way that even we do not know how what volume of earth we need to fill that hole so that we bring it back to balance. You see, this is a guy who has never said no to anything. He always says yes. Borrow more, yes. Go where, get a sovereign bond, yes.
Kwamba pia viongozi wetu, ukiangalia wabunge, kila mmoja anapigania kuongezewa mshahara. Unaweza mlaumu Henry Rotich kwa kutaka?
Yes, you see, this is a public trust. And it is incumbent upon him to say no to a decision that is going to affect negatively the economy of this country. If members of parliament want more salaries, he has to explain to them. Let him come out and tell them, what you are asking for right now is not sustainable. Look at our fiscal deficit. Look at our budget. The revenue sources, tax money is not hitting targets. You understand? And you want more salaries. Our economy is not growing commensurate to the number of people we are having as a country. So if you claim more salaries right now, it's not sustainable. You should just say it is not sustainable. Let die for a just cause than living cowardly. Because living cowardly, you are exposing people so badly. And look at the way Kenyans are suffering. You walk out there and see how young people are desperate. Look at how Kenyans are working so hard against bad leaders including Rotich, who has never pursued any fiscal or monetary policy that would ensure the robustness of a Kenyan economy.
Asante. Edwin. Abubakar, do you think our economy, ukiangalia kwamba shilingi imeanza kuzorota, do you think our economy will be in crisis anytime soon if we don't find someone to replace Henry Rotich?
You know, first, we have a wrong mentality on this issue of economic growth. Because we talk about African countries, you have to talk about over-reliance on debts. Because what is happening, countries like China, they are giving loans to every corner of the world to developing countries. And the intention is not to help, but the intention is to gain profit, interest. They are giving debts at very high interest rates. Ethiopia has the highest debt to GDP ratio from China. You know, what they are doing, Kenya gives 800 billion Kenyan shillings on interest alone, not repaying the loans, on interest on the loans they have taken. And look at what happens when the money comes. First, we are not utilizing what we have as a nation. We have taxes, which, you know, Kenya is among the highly taxed African countries, you know. Now, we are collecting tax from Kenyans, hard-earned money, and then it is going into people's pockets. Now, that's the first mistake. The second mistake, we are borrowing money at very high interest rates, and it's still not, we are engaging in, you know, development projects which are non-existent. You say you are building 2 dams. 61 billion is given, the dams are never started. You know, yes, we have the basic idea for development projects, but you know, we are not looking at developing our economic sectors because you have to change the life of that average Kenyan who is living out there. Because you might talk about economic growth. Economic growth last year, the last economic year was 5.6%. It has greatly dropped. Considering now from 2007 and before, it was at 6% almost, you know. So we have some issues affecting our economy. First, it's the politics, corruption, and debts. So what we need to do is we need to focus not more on development projects, but on, you know, developing the various economic sectors. Look at the maize farmers. A person invests a lot in maize growing, and after harvesting, the person has to stay with the maize in the house.
Yeah, has nowhere to go sell them.
Yeah. And what are we doing? We are importing maize from Mexico. Look at sugarcane farmers. They are holding bulks of sugarcane at their homes. They have invested a lot. The government is not buying.
So we have the raw materials, yet we fail to manufacture them. The government fails to buy from the farmers.
Yeah. So we have to invest more on our economic sectors. Look at how we can develop them. Reduce the costs for production of goods and services. Because on the other side, the government we could well understand, because you know they import cheaper maize from Mexico. You know,
in fact, you look at how this case came about.
We will deal with the maize in the second.
Not really the maize, but the allegations leveled against CS.
Yeah, you can even see in Business Daily, there's a Kenya shilling 63 billion scandal, James Rotit's legacy at Treasury. Hata ukiangalia the Star, it's the same thing. Who next will be the finance minister?
In fact,
katika Taifa Leo pia ni wizara ya nuksi.
In fact,
you see even in the Daily Nation, the same thing. It's a headache to
right
Kenyans.
now, even what we need to ask is, have we fixed the issue before we go to who is going to take over? Because not unless we fix the issue, the person coming in again risks repeating the same thing or even doing something worse. You understand? So what we need to to ask ourselves is this. Given the laws that we have, are our leaders sufficiently applying these laws? Because this tender was awarded on the basis of a defunct law. This CS was very much aware that we have public-private partnerships that he was to rely on in awarding this tender. The tender was awarded to a company that never bid for it. You understand? So you look at how these mistakes were. They were done in such a careless way. It was so careless, and the evidence is overwhelming. These guys cannot escape this thing. I believe that lawyer is going to prosecute that case so well.
Let us take a break. We will talk more on that. Na mtazamaji, kumbuka hii ni Sabah Show, awamu ya uchambuzi wa magazeti. Tupate pumziko fupi, tarejea baada ya muda usiokuwa mrefu inshallah.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
How much makeup should a woman put when she's going out? Now, the answer to this is naturally a woman is created a very attractive person. And if she avoids, exposing her beauty, the better. Again, I go back, that's the whole purpose of hijab. So it should be very much on the minimal if she has to. And when I say the minimal, it means the natural, the lotion and what have you, and not lipstick, not the mascara, not the too much things that women tend to do. So when a woman is going out, then she should put it on the minimal, only do what is natural and avoid makeup as much as possible. Because again, if she puts too much makeup, that will flout her hijab rules. So she should put it on the minimal, and if she wants to put makeup, she can put it inside her home, maybe before her husband and before her mahrams. Wallahu a'lam.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Karibu tena katika awamu yetu ya pili ya uchambuzi wa magazeti katika Sabah Show. Katika awamu yetu ya kwanza tumeweza kuchambua habari zilizopewa kipaumbele katika ukurasa wa kwanza wa magazeti mbalimbali za humu nchini. Kwa sasa tutaweza kuingia ndani, na kawaida siko peke yangu. Tukiangalia gazeti la People's Daily ukurasa wa 8 ni masuala mbalimbali. Swala la kwanza ni kuhusiana na ukurasa wa 8 ni mambo ya CS County Chief linked to Kihiu killings. Tutaangalia kwamba mara nyingi watu wanapotezwa kiholela, watu hawaonekani, watu wanauliwa, masuala ardhi, masuala ya viongozi na Wakenya mbalimbali. Suleiman of Tumbo, watu wanaendelea kupotea. Ni visa ambavyo vinaendelea kila kukicha, licha ya kwamba viongozi wa kutetea haki za kibinadamu wameweza kuingilia kati kwa miaka nenda miaka dudu, lakini hatujaweza kuona suluhisho kwa jambo hili.
It is true. What I'll say that we have leaders who are irresponsible.
How?
Because many of these leaders are sleeping on their jobs. Because the issue of abduction, the issue of death, watu wanakufa every time. Haya ni masuala ambayo yafaa tuyachukulie uzito fulani. You see, we can't just wake up each and every day we hear that so and so has been abducted, tumepata labda katika msitu fulani somebody has been killed, and then we are just looking at these issues as a norm in the society. It is something that we should take serious note on this, and then if somebody is found a suspect on such matters, these are the people who should be arraigned in courts. They should be jailed, they should be fined heavily, kwa sababu ni mambo ambayo tumeyachukulia wepesi fulani mpaka yameingia katika the society and we are taking it lightly. You see, human life is a sacred thing before the Almighty, and if we take it on a light note, then definitely we are going against God's will, kwa sababu pata mtu ameuliwa kiholela. There is a number of cases in these courts. Ukiangalia katika the courts zetu, kuna kesi nyingi ambazo watu wameuawa, ama kuna watu ambao wamekuwa arraigned in courts ya kwamba they are suspects, lakini hakuna sheria ambayo imechukuliwa. Na watu kama hawa utapata mtu anafungwa like 2 years, mtu anapewa maybe a bail of 50,000, the same person is out. And you see, such a person, we don't have a guarantee that when he or she is out, atakuwa ameacha ile tabia. So we should just be very strict. The government should be very strict. Our court system should be very strict on such people, on such issues, so that this human life should be taken as sacred, na watu wasiwe wenye kuwa wakiholela.
Let me put salt on your wounds. It says here, the mafia is suspected of being behind the assassination of 7 officials and behind the disappearance of 4 others. Edwin, that's salt in your wounds. The same page, the same story.
Yeah, this is serious, and as my colleague said, human life is very sacred. But again, we must come alive to the fact that there are so many competing human interests, and when it comes to business, yes, there are those who are killed because of deals gone sour, and we are talking about a mafia operating in a country that is governed by the rule of law, and we have security agencies. Our security operators are so robust, and if we can do what the late Michuki did, he said he's going to weed out Mungiki, and he was red-eyed and he was not winking his words, and he went out and flushed those guys out. If Matiang'i can say we want to deal with these issues once and for all, we make Kenya a safe haven. We make Kenya a country where nobody is fearing for their lives. You see, unless for a natural incident. This is a very unfortunate story, and we just want people to be sincere and honest with each other, so that if a deal is worth undertaking, you do. If it's not working out, you just say, yeah, you agree to disagree, that indeed we agreed on this one, but the circumstances are changing, so we withdraw voluntarily. Then having somebody to go down with their lives. Yes, and yeah, this is greed again. You could be working with some people who are plotting to eliminate you so that they take over your shares, and that's actually very bad indeed.
But you know, it is, ukiangalia masala mengine haki ni ya kusikitisha sana, because a month ago we heard of Matungu killings. This is a group of people who stormed a community. They killed a lot of people, but up to now hakuna mtu ambaye amewekwa kwenye kitabu ya kwamba he or she was responsible. We just arrest suspect. We suspect, you find somebody, unafikiria this is linked to the killings, you kill the suspect, or maybe is arraigned to court, but the key suspects to these killings are not put in the book.
Very true.
Alafu pia ukiangalia, we have the 42 brothers in Butere, that is from Western, 42 brothers in Butere. These are people ambao the government knows them very well. But then at the end of the day, they kill people, they rape our girls, but then utapata hawa watu bado they still exist. What is the government doing on this? What is the Nyumba Kumi initiative doing? You find these people, the chiefs, they know exactly what is happening. These groups, si ati ni watu ambao wametoka nje. These are people from within.
Very true.
From within. So the government should be very tough. We should go down to the villages kuhakikisha kwamba these people, mfano like the Matungo killing, who are these people? What is the...
Is it lack of justice, Abubakar?
You know, first, despite, you know, we are talking about 42 brothers and Mungiki and such.
And Wakali Kwanza in Mombasa.
Yeah, there are very many gangs that operate in this.
Exactly.
But, you know, we also need to look at the case that you mentioned, the county chief is involved.
Yeah.
In some months ago, a governor in Northeastern was involved in a murder of someone because the person was posing a political threat, you know, was about to held some information that could lead to the downfall of the governor. So, you know, we need not even a justice system. We need a leader like CS Interior Matiang'i to take action on this first, starting with those gangs, small gangs. That's something that can be worked with. Unfortunately, these people, like for the 42 brothers and such, they bribe these police. So that's why, you know, they are never taken to book.
So it's a cycle.
Because, yeah, they are working with...
We are not going to be threatened by Al-Shabaab. At the same time, we are being threatened by these small people in the villages who are threatening to kill people.
Very true,
So
but
the
let's
government
see
should just
something
be
else
honest.
which I know will even pain you more. KNH nurses threatened to quit over poor paying conditions. Over 300 nurses. It's the same page 8 of People Daily. Wanataka kustrike kwa sababu mishahara ni mdogo, kuweza kulipwa haulipi kwa wakati. NHIF yao hawezi kulipa, poor working conditions. And remember, Mr. Abubakar and Edwin and Ofu, it's the biggest hospital. Wakistrike kama leo, who will suffer? Edwin?
Of course, the common mwananchi has to suffer because they do not have alternative ways of handling their medical conditions. But again, we really must review the remuneration of our nurses. They are doing a great job, a tremendous job. These people sacrifice their time. They are in day in, day out. They work for longer hours. So we really have to review their pay structure. You know, in this country, we are always struggling with the issue of salaries because our pay structure is so varied, highly varied.
How?
And you look at what like the political class are getting against, look at the academic staff, look at what nurses are getting, look at what doctors are getting. There is a very big disparity. So we need to reconcile our pay structure so that everybody, wherever they are getting what they feel like it's working for them. And again, we must also be alive to the fact that the high pay we pay to politicians is not so bad, in my opinion, because these are people who also are doing a very great job in terms of you know, legislating in this country, ratifying international instruments, and you know, just making sure that the policies and the laws are in place. So what we need to do is to make people comfortable wherever they are. And again, we must make those who are outside the pay structure find a way of getting in, whether through the public way or the private way. So we need just to develop a wholesomeness in addressing these issues.
You can see our MPs are being paid more. In the other countries, they're paid less. Do you think that same money should be given to people like nurses and doctors?
Just to interject, in Kenya, people who overwork, people who are working well, these are the most underpaid people in the society. Look at the nurses, look at our teachers, look at our police officers. They are working, they are overworking themselves. Nurses are overworking them, teachers are overworking. Somebody going to the class, for example, a teacher going to the class from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening, but look at the pay slip. Ukiangalia utahuzunika. The nurses, they are handling patients with very different conditions. Mtu anafanya kazi overnight, but their salary, look at their salaries. Yes, look at the way they are being treated. It's like, you know, we are giving priority people who are not even of great importance to the society.
And they do the dirty
you see,
job.
I know of a political person, of an MP, who never went to class. You see? But look at the salary these people are getting. Over 500,000. Mtu at the end of the month anapata over 500,000 anaenda withdraw as salary. But a nurse unashughulikia mgonjwa from the first stage to the last stage.
But again,
wait.
We are not being fair. We are not being fair to these people.
Not being fair. What's the solution? We've talked about so many problems. What's the solution, Abu Bakar?
This is a failure of the nurses union. Because, the purpose for the nurses union, the purpose for teachers union, the purpose for any other workers union is to talk about the rights of these people,
Exactly.
Before the nurses come to a point of the decision of striking, because, what are they complaining of? Poor working conditions, being overworked, working overtime, underpaid and that. They have elected people in the nurses union. They have a chairman, a secretary. What's the person doing in that seat? The person is getting paid, obviously, the secretary, but the person is not playing his role. You have to see the union.
His point is
the union. It has to work.
But again, look at this.
The union has
look at this.
The union has to.
Dr. Dambisa Moyo is a leading economist. Said it is not bad to pay politicians a lot of money, and I support it fully.
Really?
Because look at the job description of these politicians, like members of parliament. They have to do national legislation, as I had said. They have to legislate on issues to do with instruments, both nationally and internationally. Again, look at the job description of, for instance, a P1 teacher. There is a difference in job groups.
But when you think about it, the same MPs in other countries, they do more work than our MPs, but they're paid less.
But look, it's an issue of greed.
It's an issue of greed.
But again, look at this. Look at our electorate.
As much as, my friend Edwin, as much as these MPs are doing a lot of job, as much as they are fighting for salary increment, as much as they are fighting for these big allowances, they should also be considerate. You see, kwa sababu mswada wa nurses, when it is taken to the assembly, or either teachers, they'll be reluctant on discussing this issue. Kwa sababu at the end of the day, wanataka pesa ziende huko. But look at theirs. When MPs wanataka salary increment, wataenda on the street. They'll strike.
And they unite.
Definitely. Look at the governors. Last week, they went to the streets kwa sababu they want cash.
But the salary increment is for the wananchi. The MPs are fighting for the people. When you increase their salary,
let's hear out Abu Bakar.
Now, it's relative. It's very good to relatively pay politicians high. But do you know Kenyan politicians are among the highest paid politicians?
Exactly.
And it's not about yes, we need whatever we are giving them. I think it's too much, it's an issue of greed because these people, when during normal political debates and such, you'll find that the parliament is divided. These ones are for yes, these are for no. You see, but when it comes to increment of salaries, the whole parliament is united. And even if we give them double the increase of what they are being paid right now, the issue of corruption will end.
But he doesn't agree with that.
Our campaigns are very expensive in this country.
And who makes the campaigns expensive? We take money from our politicians. When a politicians come to a political rally, acha za macho. We are the ones, the issue of corruption is starting from us. We are blaming our politicians, but if you are given the same position, you'll be probably after 1 year.
But the main thing is that as an MP, why did you want to become an MP? Is it because of money or to help your constituents?
Exactly. My friend Edwin is aspiring to become an MP in the future, and I pray that he becomes successful. But you see, when you, as a leader, first of all, you should consider your people. That is how you are supposed to work. You should be considerate to your subjects. Ya kwanza hakikisha kwamba my people are getting good affordable healthcare, people are getting good schooling, maybe housing is in good condition. But then when we elect these people, I am elected. The moment I step in that house, the moment I step in the office, I forget my people.
Let's take a break. We'll come back with that point. Na mtazamaji, mada ni moto, magazeti ni moto. Tupate pumziko fupi, tarejea baada muda usio kwa mrefu. Usiende mbali.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV. Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Na kwetu wanatambua kama Mariam Wacharo. You're watching the Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Shiriki nami Rahma Swale, mwingine Kopi, ndani ya The Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Is investing money in different companies like Coca-Cola, Nestle, etc. for profit and loss permissible or not? The one asking the question, brother or sister, I advise you not to invest in such companies. First and foremost, because by and large, these companies do invest and deal in haram. And it's not accepted to deal in a company that is dealing with haram. So my advice to you, and what the scholars, by and large, the mainstream of the scholars advises, it's not permissible for us to invest in such companies. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Karibu katika awamu yetu ya tatu na ya mwisho ya uchambuzi wa magazeti. Mada ni moto, magazeti ni moto. Tukiendelea na magazeti yetu The Standard, katika ukurasa wa 3 ni taarifa kusikitisha. Couple accused of torturing child loses bid to get her back. Wacha niwasomee paragraph moja ambayo najua not everyone will agree. Keyur Navin Chandra and his wife were denied custody of their minor by the magistrate court due to allegedly bad parenting. The two were accused of torturing the girl while pampering her twin sister. Blessing, unapata watoto wawili, Abubakar, lakini unachagua mmoja unamwadhibu, torturing her. Do you have a right to take her back?
First, no, when you give physical, not only physical, mental or emotional abuse to a child, it's something unacceptable. And you know, the solution for this, we need that before a marriage is done, the religious societies have to play a part in this. Before people, you know, they get married, they have to be given counseling first on how to live as a couple, how to be married. When they get kids, they need to be well advised on how to, because no one is living a second life. We are all living our first life, you know. Now you have 2 children, you don't know how to raise them, and you tend to favor one for another. Maybe this one is more performing well in school, or the other one, you see. But you know, I think the religious societies need to play a role in this. We need to do counseling to our parents. We need to do counseling to, you know, people who are just married, so that the issues that we are facing, not only physical abuse, we have people killing each other on love affairs and such. You know, we need some counseling to be done on people. People are mentally ill. It's not about physical illness. People are mentally ill. So we need counseling. The religious societies should play their role so that we can solve this. Yeah.
Do you think our community is rotten? We've seen kids being tortured, like you said. We've seen kids being killed by their own parents. Where are we heading?
I do not think the community is rotten, just that these are isolated incidents that happen that must be treated as such.
Isolated, but they are more often. When you read newspaper, every day.
But now,
yes,
yes, I think our system is also developed in such a way that it is able to curb such incidences. And when you look at the papers, they said the parents have lost the bid to have the kid back, because actually they have to justify that the kid will be safe and secure. And with that overwhelming evidence of the torture and all that, right now it is still a bit shaky to give them back the kid. So what I'm thinking is maybe our our psychologists need to do more, and again, people have to take responsibility. You know, right now there is so much pressure heaped on people, and that could explain as to why these extraordinary things are happening, and we really hope we can be able to navigate past that.
Do we, Suleiman of Tumbo, do we have an ethical problem in our society?
What I'll say is that the society today, the 21st century, the largest percentage of people are immoral when it comes to issue of parenting. Because, for example, the issue of foster parents, foster mother, foster father, you should just be responsible. There is no need of taking care of your own and then at the expense of mistreating maybe a child who is not yours. You are like a guardian. You know, we should be responsible. This is a blessing from the Almighty, and we understand that the same kid, if you treat this kid fair and justly, this is the same kid that is going to assist you in the future. So we should not torture these kids. We should not mistreat them. We should take them as your own kids. For example, if I entrust you, I give you my my child. For example, maybe you live with him or her. Take that responsibility. You never know when this when this child will assist you, or maybe will be of great help to you in the future. So we should just be responsible. We should. This is a blessing, as I've said. Yeah, we should just be responsible.
Thank you. Abu Bakar, during the old times, community used to gather and help each other raise your child. If something is wrong, they take up the responsibility. What's the solution in the modern world?
You know, unfortunately, you have to bear with the fruits of development, the issue of modernization, westernization and such.
My child is my child.
Yeah, because first in the 90s, 80s, probably, the society was more coherent. They were more united. You know, so in the past, our parents, you know, if they did wrong on the road, they would be punished by an elder somewhere. But right now, if you attempt such, you know, that's a court case. That's a court case. So I think these are rising from development, modernization. But I think, as I've said, you have to do more counseling so that, you know, we cannot have the community that you had before. That, you know, children are raised together, that people work together, is more unity. We can't have, because we have gone into more capitalism, more individualism. So I think, as you say, the psychologists and the counselors, the religious societies have to play their part so that we are living in a peaceful and harmonious society.
As MPs want money, scandals, corruption everywhere, heads warns on school clash. Let me read you one paragraph. Secondary schools are in a financial crisis that could affect purchase of examination materials next month. Head teachers have warned. The teachers want the National Treasury to urgently release the 12 billion free education money. If not, hakutakuwa na materials ya KCSE next term. That means it's a crisis. You are smiling.
This is a conflict of interest in each and every sector in the country. We find that since the MPs want their pack, the governors want their pack, also teachers, they also want their pack. But what I'll call upon is the government to be fair and square when they are distributing these resources. They should ensure that each and every sector is well financed, especially education sector is a sector that the government should pump in a lot of money, because in a few months time we are heading to national examinations, and these schools need a lot of money to equip the laboratories, to ensure that these students get enough training, to ensure that a lot of learning materials are pumped in these institutions, so that at the end, when we reach the examination period, students are well prepared. So they have a right. They have a right to request the government to give them cash, because these teachers, because the government actually, when you are very keen, the President's manifesto, he said that he's going to ensure that we have free primary and secondary education. And the fee that a student is paying per head is very small. It cannot cater for what he or she requires in order to get the grade, that grade that is good. So the government should take the responsibility to pump in more money to these secondary schools so that they get enough materials.
Yes, raised a point that I think is a bit
relevant.
No,
or clashing.
Is a bit misleading. There is no free secondary education per policy or per law. What we have is a subsidy program where the government subsidizes the fees payable by secondary school students. And if you walk to some of the primary schools, you find those people's parents still paying some money, and that is not free. You understand? There was free primary education during the NAC regime, but things started to change when the Jubilee government took over, and you had the teachers that say you have to pay what for both. So again, I do not think there is going to be any paralysis in our primary schools. And my colleagues are trying to advance an argument of tit-for-tat economy that cannot, flatly it cannot work. That because we are paying MPs a lot of money, we have to pay teachers, we have to pay doctors. We know, the government knows that salaries have to be reconciled. Even the SRC knows there's so much disparities in our salary structure, and that's why the SRC is constitutionally in place to make sure that we reconcile those salaries so that everybody feels on the bandwagon. And again, we might not get everything we want at any particular given time. And we look at how close are you to making your life much better. Of course, you look at MPs, they are constitutionally mandated to legislate, to oversight and represent. So they determine what goes where. You get, including their own various salaries. Imagine you're given the powers to determine how much you can be paid. You can now interrogate yourself, how much can you recommend for yourself? Again, we need also, you know, the problem in this country has never been the leaders elected. It has always been we the people. Given a chance in 2022, how different are we going to make? Are we going to send these people again back in parliament? And when the MPs say we want to increase our salaries, it is not that they want to pocket the money. It is because we the people have made politics such an expensive affair that, as I agree with him as he said, when Mheshimiwa goes to Mashinani, people are like, Mheshimiwa, leave us with something. So where is that money going to come from? So lastly on this issue, education is a matter that we cannot compromise.
Let's finish up.
It's such a serious issue, and the government must treat it as such. In fact, we need to get a CS for Treasury that will make sure that education is paramount, is given priority so that there are no such delays.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's finish up with one story, a brief comment. States to fund PhD students in proposed reforms by board. Very shortly, Abubakar, do you think it's a good thing for students being sponsored PhD? Shortly, we finish up.
Yeah, I think it's positive that you have to sponsor PhD students for.
It's page. Yeah, it's. You can see that it is being. It was highlighted in page 10 in the Star.
Yeah, so I think it's positive that the government is taking the initiative to sponsor PhD students, but also we need to consider the fact of unemployment. People out there are having PhDs, people are having masters, but where are the jobs? You know, our education system needs to be reviewed because you're having too many people coming out of universities with a mentality of employment, because what our education system does is to prepare a person for employment. Unfortunately, you know, in the past they were told, go to school, work hard, get a job. But what is happening currently? How many people are unemployed out there? So we also need, as much as we are giving the PhD student scholarship, that's fine, it's positive, but we also need to look at the issue of unemployment, because yes, this person has graduated with his PhD, but where is he going to work? Where is he going to work? We need to review our education system and see if possibly we could export labor to other countries. Like in the past, we have had nurses going to Botswana and such.
Thank you so much, Abubakar. Thank you so much, Suleiman of Tumbo. Thank you so much, Edwin, for coming and brightening up our Wednesday morning. Na mtazamaji, shukran sana pia kuangalia uchambuzi wa magazeti. Tutapata pumziko fupi, tukirejea tutarejea na business chat. Mada yetu ya leo ni Islamic banking, how it has evolved. Vipi imeweza kuimarika zaidi ya miaka 10, imeweza kuwa na mawingu makubwa na mabawa pia. Jina langu ni Ibtisam Jamal, usiende mbali.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Who annoys you most? How do we be around annoying people that we have to be? This is a really important question for me. And I remember being at a development course where I saw this guy who was so laid back and he was so chilled out. I mean, the way he spoke, the way he walked, the way he did everything. So I thought, you know what? This guy knows. So I went to him and I said, you seem like a great, calm, chilled out person. Can you tell me, how do you stay like that when you're around annoying people? So he said something which was very profound for me. He said, I just remember that however they're behaving is about them and not me. Now I had to think about this for a second, but I realized he was absolutely right. Most of the time, when people are annoying us, it's because they're behaving in a way we believe they shouldn't. And subconsciously, we believe that it's related to us or it's our fault in some way. This, of course, isn't true, because however someone chooses to react is down to them and the choices they make. So let's take an example. Imagine that I came to you and I verbally attacked you and I abused you. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel bad, right? What if a few minutes later I come back to you and I say, listen, everything I just said to you, it's all about me. It's got nothing to do with you. It's because of the stuff that's going on in my life right now. How do you feel? Better, right? You feel better even though I didn't apologize. Why? Because I've told you that it's not your fault. So the way to be around annoying people is to remember that their behavior has nothing to do with you. Now, one last question before I go. If you think I'm annoying, who is that about? You, right? So the real question is, who is the annoying person? Jazakallah khair for watching. Assalamu alaikum.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Haro! Wacha niongezee kireti ingine ya shilingi 10 nikupigie sahi.
Ongeza ya mbao.
Hey, mugaka gaki. Yaani unanipenda mpaka umeamua kuniongezea shilingi 10 ingine tu.
Hapana, siwezi kuongezea mapenzi ya 10. Hata nikutunukie katoto kingine.
Tunuki kwa sasa iko na ofa mpya ya Credo double. Piga *444*0#. Ukichagua ofa ya shilingi 10 utapata Credo ya 20. Ofa ya 20 utapata Credo ya 40. Ofa ya 50 utapata Credo ya 100 kwa network yoyote. Kumbuka ni star kwa mara 3 *0#.
You're watching Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Abu Najma with kids. We learn Quran. We learn Quran. We learn Quran. We learn Quran. We learn Hadith. We learn Hadith. We learn Hadith. We learn Hadith. We learn the duas. We learn the duas. We learn the duas. We learn the duas. We love a prophet. We love a prophet. We love a prophet. We love a prophet. Abu Najma with kids. Abu Najma with kids. We learn Quran. We learn Quran. We learn Quran. We learn Quran. We learn Hadith.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are now at the Arena 1. And over here we have player of the day.
I'm back to beat Hamza's team.
Is it time?
I chose Surah Al-Mutaffifin. I don't know the names, but Nabi Isa said, I am a slave of Allah. Is it Prophet Luqman?
1 point for this team.
Welcome to Active Sunday.
Things which will happen at the last day, which is very shocking.
That's not fair because I wasn't here.
It's a happy, happy, happy day. Oh, what a happy day it is for Active Sunday.
Kiumbe dhaifu lakini jasiri.
Alitunukiwa sura nzima,
sura inayompa daraja yake inavyostahiki. Sharti ajigambe.
Naam, na pepo ipo chini ya nyayo zake.
Mpamba nyumba na nyoyo za wapendwa wake.
anayebeba majukumu yake pasina kupinga.
Mtazamaji, je, unamfahamu anayezungumziwa?
Bila ya kusahau hadhi yake na haki zake.
Ungana nami Rahma Swaleh na Sheikh Juma Amir
tukuelimishe na kukupa mwelekeo katika maisha ya ndoa
kwenye kipindi Dira ya Mwanamke,
kila Jumamosi na Jumapili saa 2 usiku majira ya Afrika Mashariki ndani ya Horizon TV.
Walk with us as we tell you the stories of our society.
Wengine atavaa mtandio kichwani utafikiri ni kijihandkerchief.
Enzi za wakati wa kusema ati alisema akasisitiza akihutubia wanahabari, enzi hizo hazipo tena.
Kwa kuchimbua na kunakili matukio kwa undani.
We want to create current awareness
ranging from adventure, human interest and inspirational stories, ili kuweza kukuelimisha, kukuburudisha na kukubumbuisha. Words have been said, but now it is time to lay the foundation that will impact the world.
Terrorism is terrorism, no matter who is behind the trigger.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ikiwa ni tarehe 21 mwezi Dhulqaada mwaka 1440 sawia na mwezi Julai tarehe 24 mwaka 2019. Karibu katika Business Chat. Mada yetu ya leo ni Islamic Banking, Evolution of Islamic Banking. Je, tumeona kwamba miaka 10 huduma za benki Kiislamu imeweza kupawa matawi yao. Tunapeperusha katikati ya jiji la Nairobi katika msikiti wa Jamia Mosque katika Islamic Premier Station, coming closer to you. Niko na viongozi ndio maana kidogo natetemeka, lakini kawaida naanza na mkono wangu wa kulia. Founder of FCB, the founder of Islamic Banking, Nadif Jama. Niko na Sheikh Badru Jafar, Sharia Board Advisor, Auditor. Niko na Sheikh, penda kuita Sheikh kwa sababu ni mzee wangu, the CEO of Gulf African Bank, Abdullah Abdul Khalik. Starting straight to you, what is Islamic banking? What is Islamic banking?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad. Kwanza kabisa nashukuru. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming.
And also for the opportunity to discuss such a very, very important topic.
Thank you.
Islamic banking basically is a way of doing banking business in line with the Islamic Sharia. Now, when we talk of the Islamic Sharia, what we are saying is that the Islamic Sharia has what we call maqasid, or the objectives of as ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for human beings, to avoid what is bad and to embrace what is good. So Islamic banking is a way of doing mu'amalat or Islamic or transactions, business transactions, in line with the Islamic Sharia on the basis of uqood or contracts, which basically are allowed by the Sharia.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sheikh Badru Jafar, what are the Sharia principles that govern Islamic banking?
In essence, as the father of Islamic banking in Kenya has just said, we say that Islamic banks are banks that do their business in line with Sharia, and in that we mean that they avoid one of the first principle that we would now say is that they avoid interest. Secondly, they avoid unfair dealings or injustice. They avoid gharar, for example, excessive risk. They also avoid things like gambling. So these are some of the key principles that are adhered to by Islamic banks.
Mr. Abdul Khalik, is Islamic banking limited to only Muslims?
No, it is not limited to only Muslims, and that is a perception that unfortunately exists today in our environment. Islamic banking is not about selling faith. It's about a concept. That concept happens to be in line with the Islamic tenets as guided by the Sharia in the Quran and in the Sunnah. But it's as good as anybody who has a choice of having to go to a Chinese restaurant to have Chinese food. It's not only for the Chinese or an Indian restaurant. So it is a concept that is available to everybody, and in fact I can take the opportunity to invite people to find out more what it is about, so that they can appreciate what is Islamic banking about.
Actually, if I may add to what my brother has said,
yes, Mr. Nadif.
In the banks, now the Islamic banks in Kenya, there's a big chunk of non-Muslims who are already banking with them. I can easily tell you, and actually even the staff, some of the senior managers in these institutions, some of the CEOs in these institutions are not even Muslims for that matter. It's a question of embracing, as was said rightly, the concept and appreciating the value proposition of the same. If you look at countries like Malaysia, for instance, we are told about 70% of those who bank in those institutions in those countries are non-Muslims. It's a question of appreciating the value proposition and the ethical aspects of the same, as opposed to being a religious perspective.
So before doing anything, we have to know the history of anything. So we wanted to know the history of Islamic banking. What led to the establishment of Islamic banking in Kenya?
Well, I think what led to that, of course, was the need. The need to have an alternative banking system to accommodate or to serve a huge chunk of the Kenyan population that basically were unserved at that particular moment in time. Banking is a very, very important aspect in modern day life. It's very difficult to imagine, as a Muslim, you have been denied not to borrow on riba basis or interest basis. And there's no alternative to the existing institutions. So definitely there was a need to develop that alternative system so that it could serve that particular niche of people who are, of course, keen to borrow along the lines of the Sharia. And that's why, therefore, of course, there occurred necessary steps to create the same and to indeed work towards the same. And that's where we all started from.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. What are the challenges that you faced that still are facing them?
Well, many challenges. Obviously, the first one was a question of trying to educate the regulators at the time. And of course, that education is an ongoing process, but at that particular moment in time, it was a question of ensuring they appreciate what we're talking about, ensuring that actually they understand this concept. It wasn't an easy one. I remember it was a long journey that actually forced us even to take a number of CBK staff at that moment in time all the way to London, because luckily at that moment in time, I'm talking about 2004, there was already an established Islamic bank in the UK. And I remember that time, the governor of the time, CBK governor of the time, Dr. Mulay, gave us the opportunity to carry actually 3 two staff members of the team, the Banking Supervision Department, to the UK, and then on to some banks in the Gulf where I was based at that time, so they could see exactly how those institutions were operating. And it's only after that tour and after many sessions with the CBK and the other authorities that eventually they understood the whole concept. More important also, it was a question of them appreciating that there was indeed a need for this sector to exist, because there was a huge chunk of the Kenyan population who are not being served by the banking system.
Shukran sana. Mr. CEO, are you still facing the same challenges? And what challenges did you face while establishing Gulf African Bank?
No, the challenges at establishment period are more or less the same as what the governor said. However, there are still challenges that exist even today. Banking is actually an act of parliament in Kenya. I believe Islamic banking has not been incorporated in that act until today, even though now we have 3 fully established and fully fledged banks. If it was already done there, it will give us a more level playing field with the other conventional banks that we are competing with. We also need it to be incorporated in our systems. Some things still remain vague today, because when we operate Islamic banking, we do it under the Sharia law. Today, it is not very clear when we have a commercial dispute between us and our client and we go to court, which ruling will take precedence in that. Is it the court, the law of the land, or the Sharia law? So these are still gray areas that we would have liked to clear with the authorities. So those remain challenges.
Inshallah. Shukran sana. Mr. Badru Jafar, what are the modes of Islamic banking? What's mudaraba? What's musharaka? What's ijara for some people who don't know them?
Maybe just to add onto the challenges before I look into the contracts that you've just mentioned. I think one of the key challenges that we faced then and we're still facing is the knowledge gap. And Mr. Nadif has talked about that in line with the regulators. But we also have the same, for the market players and also our customers. There are people who tend to believe that Islamic banking, because it is Islamic, then it is cheaper or it is even free. Okay, and they expect that whenever they take a facility from an Islamic bank and they incur losses, then they can just easily call Mr. Abdul Khalik and tell him, whatever you financed me, there was this, and now I have lost, so please bear the loss. Yeah, so they take it as though it is actually an NGO, where you'd be getting freebies, so to say. So that remains one of the key challenges that we are facing. This is on one hand, and then of course when you go to, you take a contract, a financing of a letter from a bank, and then you go to your local mosque and ask the imam there, is this Sharia compliant, is this halal? And generally they will always tell you, haram. This is haram. So that remains one of the key challenges that we are facing as Islamic banks. Coming to the contracts that you've just mentioned, I think it would be difficult for me to explain all the contracts, but basically what I can say, what Muslim scholars have done is transform trading instruments. What you have mentioned, for example, musharaka, mudaraba, murabaha, wakala, wadi'a, all these were trading instruments. So basically what Muslim scholars have done is transform trading instruments into financing instruments. And this is something that needs to be understood by everyone, that Muslim scholars have not come up with something new. The contracts that we are talking about are already there in our books of fiqh. So what scholars have done today is just transform these trading instruments, because, for example, a partnership is something that is there between, partners or companies out there. So an Islamic bank can partner with you in a business venture or in your company, and by doing that, they have actually financed you. Conventionally is given you a loan, and that is Sharia compliant. So there are a number of modes of financing that are there in fiqh that now Islamic banks, Islamic financial institutions are utilizing the same, and now to address the needs of diverse clients. There's somebody who wants an asset, there's somebody who wants working capital, there's someone who wants to pay a loan. All these contracts or ways of financing or addressing your needs are already there in our books of fiqh. So it would be easy for me to say that if one wants to understand these contracts, then it is for them to go to these Islamic banks and then just ask. So the same thing that one customer would come and take a financing offer letter and go to the sheikh, it would be easier for them to maybe go to the sheikh and say, what are the modes of trading in Islam? They would be told is musharaka, a partnership. There's mudaraba, another form of partnership. There is muzara'a and many other contracts that are already there in our books of fiqh. Let them understand that, and then now they can come to an Islamic bank and then it be explained that yes, this is how we utilize the same contract to finance your needs.
I'm posing a question to Mr. Nadif Jama and the CEO, Abdullah Abdul Khalik. He talked about people going back to the sheikhs and asking the questions. Do you think we lack awareness on Islamic banking?
Yes, I think that's actually an area which definitely requires a lot of investment, a lot of development. And I think the key one for me is to first of all educate the ulama themselves. And in educating them, I think the first step is for them to appreciate this whole concept of Islamic banking and Islamic finance. I can say without fear of contradiction, our ulama, by and large, have not embraced the system very well. I think they are very much busy with a lot of other good activities, but have not necessarily spent good quality of time into fiqh al-mu'amalat, which is Islamic jurisprudence, as it relates to matters of Islamic finance and banking and so forth and so on. I just want to mention one thing, and this is probably something for the ulama to appreciate. They say, as was rightly said by Sheikh Badru, some of them will actually go to the extent of telling you there was no Islamic banking before, during the Prophet's time. So they actually blame us for talking about a concept that was not there before. But what we tell them is, Islam is a way of life. And that way of life had to be there, will be there, and has to be there. So we have to, basically interpret and live with the contracts as they were at that time in their modern facets, in the modern ways, so that we are able to serve the ummah, so that the Islamic life, the Islamic way of life can be complete. You couldn't say we can do all the other things, but there's no Islamic banking, or we avoid it. Then what happens to the Muslims? What happens to the financial requirements? What happens to their need for borrowing? Because borrowing was there and will be there forever. So what happens to the Muslims if there's no Islamic banking and if we don't support it? So first of all, I think for me, the first point of call will be to educate the ulama themselves. But for us to educate them, they need to have a sincerity of purpose and objectivity, and as far as this matter is concerned, holistically, so that actually we are together. But when the ulamas avoid the whole thing and see it as a, just as a periphery thing, or see it as not being different from the other conventional institutions, then we're in trouble.
Shukran sana. Mr. CEO, we'll get back to you after the break. Na mtazamaji, kumbuka unaweza kutuma maoni yako kupitia nambari za simu zilizoko katika runinga zako. Unaweza kupiga simu, kutuma ujumbe mfupi, ama unaweza kutupata katika mitandao ya kijamii @Horizontv Kenya, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Kumbuka mada yetu ya leo ni huduma za benki ya Kiislamu, Evolution of Islamic Banking in Kenya. Kama una maoni yako, unaweza kuwasiliana nasi. Tupate pumziko fupi, tarejea baada ya muda usio kwa mrefu.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Na kwetu wanatambua kama Mariam Wacharo. You're watching the Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Shiriki nami Rahma Swale, mwingine Kopi, ndani ya The Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Quote of the day. Imam Malik bin Anas said, I am but a man. I make mistakes sometimes, and I am correct sometimes. So examine my opinions and accept anything that agrees with the book and sunnah, and leave anything that does not agree with the book and sunnah.
I am Aisha Khan. Let's brighten up your morning. You're watching The Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Waswahili wanasema chilea chilea utapata mwana si wako. Kwa majina ni Muhammad Uhura na hii ni Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
If a person is wearing a job ID card with his picture, and the card is about 1 inch in size, and he stands next to us or behind us in salah, would it affect our salah? This is similar to the previous question. No, brother or sister, it would not affect your salah. It would not invalidate it. Affecting your salah means with regards and respect to invalidating it. It will not nullify your salah. But if it's affecting your salah with regards and respect to distraction and like a bit of withering away your attention and concentration, then that is actually a means of distracting one's salah and his concentration. And this is not a small sin. A lot of people come with flashy clothes, or clothes with animate pictures, or clothes with, like, jerseys, football jerseys people wearing. A lot of scholars do not advise this in salah, in particularly in salah. You have to wear decently so that you can concentrate fully in front of your Almighty. You're having a meeting and a spiritual chat with your Creator. It's a hotline. Take it that way. So placing destructive objects or things and elements that will actually divert people's attention and their concentration, these are not accepted. And such a person should remove his job ID card and place it in his pocket, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum, karibu katika awamu yetu ya pili ya Business Chat. Mada yetu ni Evolution of Islamic Banking. Hapo awali tumeweza kuzungumzia ni vipi Islamic Banking imeweza kuja katika nchini Kenya na nchi ya kwanza katika Afrika Mashariki. Tukiendelea na mada yetu, CEO Abdul Khalik, we've heard about the leaders, Islamic leaders. As Galfang, as the CEO, what do you think should be the solution, and what have you done so far to at least create awareness to the leaders, Islamic leaders and Kenyans at large and Muslims?
Yeah, as was said previously, there's definitely a knowledge gap in terms of Islamic banking, and Islamic banking itself is a relatively new concept in Kenya. It started only about 10 years ago or so. Yeah, so the knowledge gap has been and still exists even today, and as my colleagues correctly mentioned here, that this gap could have been bridged by the ulamas themselves, because they are the people who have followers and people who listen to them. So I think the first approach should be to educate the ulamas themselves. It is very easy for an ulama to say this is haram because he doesn't understand the consequences of it. If he says yes, it's halal, and somebody does it and it turns out to be haram. So they need to have that confidence. Okay. And during the break, we were discussing here about maybe a joint forum where we can actually educate the ulamas themselves so that it can spread to the common knowledge. But then people also need to look at it with an open mind. Whoever goes to listen or wants to learn or take their own initiatives, all the information we are talking about here today, you would probably find it in all in the internet and any other place that it's people to take their own personal initiatives also to understand. Since it's a concept that wasn't there before, now people needed to embrace it and understand it. There were very good excuses before that we didn't have Islamic banks and people were trading with traditional conventional banks, and you cannot do business without a bank. So maybe at that time it was understandable. Today, if you ask, today we are divided into three. There are people who have been waiting for Islamic banks to come so that they can embrace it and they can move immediately. There are others who needed more incentive than just Islamic bank. You approach somebody, says, me, I've been with this bank for the last 15 years. My parents were with this bank. They have so much loyalty to the bank that even the issue of Islamic banking does not appeal to them. So they need additional, what can you give it to me besides the Islamic component of it? And then there's the third group, which is even more dangerous, that does not believe at all. Okay, they said that it's better to say that, okay, it's there, I understand this is what I'm supposed to do, maybe Allah atanipa hidayah, one day ntarudi. Like if you just deny it completely to say it's not, then you are actually denying the fundamental truth about the religion.
Sheikh Badru Jafar, we've seen achievements so far in so many bankings, and even seeing other conventional banks opening windows of Islamic banking. My question is, who regulates the principles of Sharia in such banks?
Generally, Islamic institutions providing financial services self-regulate as far as Sharia compliance is concerned. It is only a few jurisdictions where you have a centralized Sharia supervisory board or a Sharia supervisory board at the central bank that now would ensure compliance with Sharia. But by and large, let's say in a Kenyan context, they self-regulate. They have Sharia supervisory boards and they have, of course, internal Sharia audit departments. Yeah, so they self-regulate.
Mr. CEO, why did conventional banks open Islamic window?
Okay. Conventional banks opened Islamic windows. First of all, they have seen that the concept is working. That's one. Two, and maybe luckily enough for most of conventional banks, they have opened windows more as defensive, more than an aggressive one to promote Islamic banking. Customers who have been leaving conventional banks because new Islamic banks have come into the market, then now a conventional bank can tell him, no, we also have a department. If that is what you wish, we can also offer you as that. But as you may have seen, they are not as aggressive in even marketing that product.
Let me pose questions which are asked on social media. One, how would you entrust someone who doesn't have a good Sharia understanding, non-Muslims, to implement Sharia in an institution that's guided by Sharia? One. Two, why would I take on Islamic banking and not any other conventional banking? How Islamic are Islamic banking, Mr. CEO? Do I repeat the question?
The last one, yeah?
Okay, the last one says, why would I take on Islamic banking and not any other conventional banking? How Islamic are the Islamic banking?
Oh, okay.
That's Faisal who's commenting on YouTube.
Well, to answer the first question, why would I go to an institution that is being, I think by a non-Muslim...
no, he says, how would I entrust someone who doesn't have a good Sharia understanding, non-Muslims, to implement Sharia in an institution that's guided by Sharia?
I think part of the question has been answered by Sheikh Badr when he said that the Islamic institutions, or for that matter any institution, whether a window or a fully-fledged institution, must have a Sharia regulatory system embodied in the institution. Even if it's a window, there must be a Sharia board, there must be a Sharia department, or a Sharia unit at least. Now, the staff, the particular staff, may not necessarily have full knowledge of the contracts. And hence, that's why this specific aspect of a Sharia unit or a Sharia department or a Sharia board comes in as a very critical aspect of any dealings regarding Islamic banking. If an institution was just to run with staff without a Sharia unit or a department or a Sharia body, then definitely that question becomes valid. But where we have the Sharia unit or the Sharia board or the Sharia department in place, then of course the lack of knowledge that a particular staff may not have is of course mitigated by that particular department. Coming to the issue of how Islamic are the Islamic banks.
Yeah, Islamic.
Again, I think this is the issue that was being raised, lack of knowledge. And I want to support what my brother Abdul Khalik has said. People need to be open-minded. Please come and engage us. Come and engage Islamic institutions. Come and engage the Sharia scholars, so that you can be told if you're in doubt. We are, of course, there. I want to confirm that there are indeed certain practices or certain staff who may not necessarily be fully conversant, who may not be able to explain it well, who may not even be able to do the right thing. But that doesn't mean that that negates the principles. The principles of Islamic finance are intact into the Sharia and to the fiqh mu'amalat, Islamic jurisprudence, and they're right. Nobody can ever say they are wrong, because they are all talking about avoiding riba or interest dealings, avoiding, as was said, speculative transactions, and therefore we are Islamic to the extent that we are based on principles that are intact and correct based on the Quran and the Hadiths. But if we are making mistakes in the practices, then of course we are bound to improve on them, again based on the guidances that Islamic banking should be getting from the Sharia scholars. All I'm trying to say is the notion that these institutions are not doing things right and just blame them from outside doesn't help at all.
Doesn't. Yeah. Before I get back to Sheikh Badru Jafar, let me come to CEO of Gulf Bank. We were having a discussion between us in the office. They were asking, how does an Islamic bank make profit and you don't take riba? How does it work?
Okay, Islamic banks, first of all, you need to understand, the Islamic banks here are commercial banks. They are here for profit making. Okay, usually it's for mutual benefit between the customer and the bank or the investors of that bank. Our transactions are based either on trade or on partnership. And when you do trade, you expect to make a profit out of a trade. And when you do partnership, is you enter into a business partnership with your customer, and in the business you will have assessed whatever risks and potential profits that can be made, and it's agreed upon beforehand that this will be our share of profit between us and you. So maybe it will be a bit, like Sheikh Badru said, beyond the scope of this interview to explain how exactly those, but we enter into business contracts with our customers, either through a trade or through a business partnership, and we make money out of those businesses. We also lose money, by the way.
They don't know that. I think you should rephrase that.
I think just to conclude that one, basically Islamic banking institutions are not charity institutions. They have to make money. Absolutely. Otherwise, but they are institutions that make money or are supposed to make money in line with the Sharia.
In line with the Sharia.
No.
You see, you making money, or you look at even other traders outside banking system. Other traders, how do they make money and they don't take, they don't pay or receive interest? They do it through their own trades. Somebody who owns a coffee shop or a butchery or a bookshop, how do they make money? They don't take interest. So it's that kind of business. So we're doing it in a different way, but it's a mode of trade.
Why is that people have it in their heads that Islamic institutions are charity? Sheikh Badru Jafar.
No, I think by and large, as a community, whenever something is said to be Islamic, we tend to expect, free things. It's like it is a charity, it is a sadaqah, it is brotherhood, we are helping one another, which is good, but when I open, let's say, a butchery, for example, as the CEO has mentioned, and you come to me and you say, I'm your brother Muslim, I'm selling a kilo at 400 shillings, for example, and you tell me, you try to bargain and tell me, you know, I'm your brother, why don't you, you know, give me a discount, then I'd rather sell to a non-Muslim.
That's true.
Okay, so this issue of just because I'm your brother Muslim, then I should be getting discounts because on account of you being a Muslim, you know, it's actually misplaced. If anything, take an example from, you know, the Sunnah. I don't know how much time we have. You know, somebody was buying a horse, and he was told it's X amount of money. So let's say it's about 500 dinars. And then he said, let me take it for a test drive. Okay. Then he goes and comes back and he says, this horse, you know, it's worth more than the 500. Should I add you know, 100, so it becomes 600 on account of being, you know, Muslim and, you know, sincerity. This actually is mentioned under the chapter of sincerity. So he goes for a second test drive and a third test drive, and he adds up to 900. So Islam is not just charity. We do business. If you want to do business with me, then we have to agree. And this is basically why Sharia clearly stipulates when we enter into a transaction, we have to write it down and we have to agree. For example, in a partnership, we have to agree on a profit sharing mechanism with clear, you know, fractions or percentages of what, you know, is generated. So in essence, people tend to believe, and this is why, for example, you know, in Ramadan, people start, you know, waiting for, you know, are there dates? You know, is there a mushaf, you know, being, you know, you are very wealthy, but you don't go to the shop and buy a mushaf. You'd rather wait for a free distribution. You are very wealthy, but you don't go and buy dates. You go waiting for free distribution. That's basically our community. So we expected Islamic banking, you know, it would be cheaper than conventional banks, or even free for that matter.
Okay. Has, Mr. CEO, has the government improved the environment of Islamic banking?
Yeah, improving
made it easier for you to do business?
It has. We have not had any challenges. Only what I've said earlier. You see, as I said today, since it's not part of the Act, the Parliament Act on Banking, we are getting our approvals on case by case. We have not had any case where we were declined an approval, but the process is a bit long. Okay, so the central bank has been very supportive, who are our regulators. We are very thankful to them. We have also, as the governor said earlier, in the initial stages, we tried to also educate our regulators. It would be good at some point, and I have seen this in other countries that they have done, they also have a Sharia board at central bank level, so that they can also regulate the industry. It can give more confidence to the consumer out there that even this aspect of Sharia is regulated by an independent body.
Maybe just to add, sorry, let me just add, there's a finance bill of 2017, finance bill, that has basically not just recognized, but has actually embedded Islamic banking, you know, in the act, so to say. And when you come to, for example, the CMA, the Capital Markets Authority, in their master plan, they have also embedded Islamic finance in that, and also in Takaful, they have had some amendments to also accommodate Islamic insurance. So we are seeing some development in that regard, and there was also a project management office that was working with the government to advise the government and, you know, to make the requisite amendments in, you know, different laws to accommodate Islamic finance, not just Islamic banking.
I think what I wanted to say has been said by Sheikh Badru, more or less, and the CEO. But we are grateful, and we have to be grateful, that actually we have a government and regulators, for that matter, who have embraced this concept, probably in the entire African continent, among the first ones, for that matter. That itself is a step in the right direction. I remember, and I have visited a number of countries in Africa, for instance, where still a large number of regulators are not accommodating this concept of Islamic finance, and the Muslim communities in those countries are indeed crying for the same. So I think for all purposes and intents, we are thankful, we're grateful, but of course there is more to be done, and more can be done, and we need to do more. If anything, actually, it is on the onus is on us as Islamic bankers to engage them more and get things moving probably more faster and more deeper. Sure. I think that the basic question that eventually, probably as we conclude, we'll talk about is what should our role be to deepen this market. What do we need? So far, I think we've just been too busy as Islamic institutions, full-fledged, and also even the windows. They need to come out also and help us. You asked the question earlier about Islamic windows by conventional banks. Almost all the major conventional banks in this country now have Islamic windows. But how much support are they giving us to deepen this market?
We will talk
to
more.
engage the regulators more.
Shukran,
so these are the issues.
Shukran, we'll talk more about.
I can confidently say that Kenya is way ahead in terms of Islamic banking than all the regional countries that we have here. And we have an opportunity to become the hub of Islamic banking in this region of East and Central Africa.
Mashallah. Na mtazamaji, Kenya being the hub of Islamic banking in East Africa. Na mtazamaji, najua na masuala mengi unaweza kuuliza kupitia mitandao yetu ya kijamii @Facebook, Horizon TV Kenya, Twitter and Instagram. Kumbuka mada ni ndefu, tutarejea baada muda usiokuwa mrefu inshallah.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Waswahili wanasema chelea utapata mwana si wako. Kwa majina ni Muhammad Hura na hii ni Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
I am Aisha Khan. Let's brighten up your morning. You're watching the Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Shiriki nami Rahma Swale, mwingine kopi ndani ya The Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Na kwetu wanatambua kama Mariam Wacharo. You're watching The Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Quote of the day. Imam Malik bin Anas said, I am but a man. I make mistakes sometimes, and I am correct sometimes. So examine my opinions and accept anything that agrees with the book and sunnah, and leave anything that does not agree with the book and sunnah.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Katibu katika awamu yetu ya tatu na ya mwisho ya Business Chat. Mada ni Evolution of Islamic Banking. Na siko peke yangu kawaida, niko na Nadhif Jama, founder of Islamic Banking and FCB, Sharia Advisor Sheikh Badru Jafar, CEO of Gulf African Bank Abdullah Abdul Khalik. Let me go straight to Sheikh Badru Jafar. Why is riba condemned in Islam?
Maybe just to try and define riba first of all, although it may be very difficult to give the different types of riba. But what is commonly known by all of us is when riba is any pecuniary or non-pecuniary, and I fear sounding very academic, pecuniary or non-pecuniary benefit that borrower, would pay the lender. Okay, so in a borrower-lender relationship, if I was to borrow 1,000 shillings from you, and then I pay back 1,000 and something, so whether it is monetary or non-monetary, then that would be interest. And whether it is for business or it is not for business, it is still regarded as riba, and it is haram. Riba from a Sharia point of view is regarded as a charitable contract. You know, it is not a for-profit or a commercial contract, and that is why it is even equated to how I would borrow, you know, something like even a dress or you know, a sufuria for that matter. You don't expect me to return 2 or 3. Okay, so riba, that basically is riba. Now, riba has been prohibited because then it becomes unfair. I will be taking, you know, undue advantage in your circumstances. You need money, I give you money, and then I charge you, you know, interest. And that is why even in economics, you'd find that they would be talking about, you know, a pound of flesh. I've given you money, you are unable to pay. It's as if now I'm actually taking a pound of flesh. So that is why it is prohibited. And it is also prohibited because an economic agent or a businessman or somebody who has money might not necessarily engage in beneficial economic activities for the society, because he knows I could just easily give Abdul Khalik 1,000,000 shillings, and after a month he will give me 1,100,000. So I'm not engaging in any economic activity. So I'm actually taking out money from the society that would have been beneficial. It would have been put in economic development of the country or of the society, and that is why it is injurious. So it is not only detrimental to the Muslims, or it does not only affect Muslims, it actually affects the whole society, or, you know, human beings.
Let me just quickly add. You see, from a pure economic perspective, riba actually is not economically viable in many ways. Let me give you an example. We do, as was rightly said earlier, Islamic finance institutions either trade or partner with their clients. Now look at the difference. When you come to me to borrow money, as a conventional institution, the key things I look into is the security that you will give me. If you are properly secured and you give us security, and you have some history with us of borrowing and repayment, then I give you the money. You may not necessarily be having any viable business proposition to go and undertake. So actually the money can be easily diverted into other matters, and then tomorrow you are unable to repay. But in an Islamic setting, Islamic banking system, we are your partners. If it's a musharaka transaction, we make sure we are together in that transaction, which we do together to ensure that it creates value for you to repay the financing and also to add value to the economy. If it is mudaraba, you are our manager and we are working with you to ensure that you are indeed engaging in a good economical value proposition. Now, when we just take the example of the cooperative loans that many people take. Utasikia mtu amechukua loan, suddenly the loan has not been utilized properly. Tomorrow he's not only paying in a lot of interest, but no much value has gone back to him or to his family or even to the economy. So riba, just the idea of charging money on money, is punitive and indeed of less value to the economy.
Mr. Abdul Khalik, is it the main reason for non-Muslims coming to Islamic banking and doing business with you guys as an Islamic banker?
You see, the non-Muslims, as in fact the governor said that earlier, that we currently have a sizable number of non-Muslims who have come and appreciated the way we do business. The element of charging profit, which may equate to riba elsewhere, but it's charged in a manner that is acceptable. And as I keep saying, it's actually the process of how you do things that make them halal rather than haram. If you have a slaughtered chicken or a strangled chicken, one will be halal, one will be, but the end result is the same, the meat will be the same, the taste will be the same. And that's why we also follow the same process. Riba, you know, this is the ijtihad of ulamas and sheikhs as why is it haram, but the Quran never told us. It was just we were just told that we should not engage into riba, and it actually comes with very, very stiff punishment. It's the only thing that in the Quran Allah says, if you engage into it, then فَأَذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, declare war between you and Allah. How can you afford that war between you and him? And it's the only punishment that has actually been declared like that in such a harsh manner. As to why is it haram, there are so many interpretations. Some of them have been narrated here, but the Quran itself did not. It just told us refrain from it. And this is what Muslims are supposed to follow. But in terms of non-Muslims appreciating it, we have people who have come, we have explained, and they really, really appreciate. They know in the end of the day they will pay. And you may find it right exactly the same if you take a loan from a conventional bank and an Islamic. The end payment that you will make may be equal. It's the same thing. But the process that was followed, one was lawful and the other one was not.
Why the need to launch an Islamic credit card? I believe it's the first in East Africa. Why?
Yes, credit card has become now very common and a very convenient way of using money, especially for people who travel frequently. You don't need to carry so much cash with you. And people who also travel for an extended period before they come back home to get more money and all that. So we thought it's a product that is missing. Muslim customers, our Muslim customers have been deprived of that. They have moved entirely to Islamic banking, but there are some facilities that they are unable to get because of lack of things like credit card. Today we're having a big challenge on overdraft facilities, which we also haven't found a very good product for it to offer it in an Islamic way that is Sharia compliant. That what raised the need for an Islamic bank. There are other products that we are also trying to come up with that Muslims have not been able to get access to, but credit card was our first and we have launched it successfully, alhamdulillah.
As the Sharia advisor, what are the principles of such a credit card?
As we had initially said that the principles of Islamic finance are not necessarily actually Islamic banking. The principles apply to even Mama Mboga out there or Muuzaji Sambusa and what have you. So one of the principles is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed trade and then he has prohibited interest. So that would be one of the principles, and maybe the no-go zones. Secondly, the issues to do with gambling, as we had said, or excessive risk or speculation. So for example, I think one of the features that this card has is that they have disabled it. If today I want to go and swipe, in a place that is not Sharia compliant, then I would not be able to actually acquire, non-Sharia compliant services or goods or commodities for that matter. So simply, those are some of the things that, or rather the principles that, of course, they would have to adhere to for this card to remain Sharia compliant. Yeah.
Okay, before I go to Mr. Nadif Jama, how does it work? How does the credit card work?
Yeah, the credit card work. We are using a model called Ujra on it. Ujra is a fee-based service, and Ujra has been used many years ago, even before Islam, or with the previous. In the Quran, I think it has been mentioned in areas where, like if I remember the verse, خير من استأجرت لقوي. I mean, okay. So like this, Nabi Musa was given offered this on Ujra basis. Yeah, so it's a concept. So where Ujra, we charge a fee for the usage of the card and the privileges that you get together along with the card, and it is only on the usage of that card. Okay, and that fee does not compound like the interest. Let's say, for example, if you have a conventional card and you do not pay your installments on time, that expands. So this fee is fixed. If it is not paid for not a good reason, we charge penalty, which goes to charity, but it's just more of a deterrent than a charge. But these are the principles. Then the other principles that are coming along with it, the Sheikh Badr said, it can only be used for halal transactions, areas that we know that are not halal, like casinos and websites that are pornographic, for example, or alcoholic areas and all that. It will definitely not work. There are areas that you cannot control. If I go to a supermarket today, I can buy halal goods, and there are also goods that are not halal. So that one, we get the customer to take the dhimma of that he will use it in the right, for the right uses and all that. But these are the concepts. The model behind it is the ujra, where we only charge a fee and based on the usage of the card. If you stay with the card for the whole year and you have not used it at all, there will be no fee for the usage of that. You will only pay the subscription fee, the annual subscription fee.
To you, Mr. Nadif Jama, what is sukuk? For people who don't know.
Sukuk?
Yes, sukuk.
Sukuk is loosely translated to mean bonds. But of course, bonds, as we know them conventionally, are interest-oriented. Bonds basically, as issued by either governments or by corporates or by municipalities, are what we call them IOU, money basically that is borrowed by that entity, whether a government or an institution or corporate, and at the end of a certain period they pay interest. So it's basically money borrowed and on which interest is paid. So it's a loan that government or that company takes from the masses in the form of issuing, bonds or papers, certificates. Now, in an Islamic setting, we also need to be able to be issuing those certificates to people, but in Islamic, in a way that's acceptable to the Sharia. So we must come up with, uqud or contracts in which we base now the issuance of those bonds. For instance, if I, for instance, wanted to construct a major project, like a building, and I want money, to raise money for that building or that project, then basically you can resort to a contract like an ijara or like a musharaka, whereby you tell people to participate in this project by us issuing certificates of owning together that project for a certain period. So basically, you collect those monies through those bonds or through those certificates, which we call them sukuk. And at the end of the project, you sell the project and you pay the people the original money plus the profit from the transaction on the underlying business activity or project. So basically, sukuk, in a very, very simple terms, means Islamic bonds or Islamic certificates for investment purposes.
Shukran sana. How is it promoting? How will it promote Kenyan economy? And sukuk and Islamic banking at large. I'm posing a question to all of you.
Well, generally, I would say that Islamic finance provides an alternative, for investors, either to invest, their money. It also provides the government, with sources of, not revenue, but actually money to invest. So for example, if it is a project or maybe an airport or a port for that matter, or let's say the SGR as we had, it would be easy, it would be another alternative way for the Kenya government, for example, to come up with money for these infrastructures. And so basically, yes, Islamic finance can help develop the economy by either providing an alternative source of funds, or providing investors with alternative ways to invest their funds. So there's also the financial inclusion, where, as the governor had said initially, we had the unbanked, generally the Muslims who would not partake in conventional banking. So alhamdulillah, now Muslims are able to save, deposit, and they're also able now to get facilities, and now of course either to educate their children further, or open businesses, expand their businesses. So it actually helps the economy of the country.
Okay, let me finish up with a question. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has warned that the rapid growth of Islamic finance in Kenya is happening without adequate protection of depositors, as it is the case with conventional bank. Mr. Abdul Khalik, do you agree with that?
No, I disagree. First of all, the issue of depositors' money in Kenya is controlled by one regulatory authority, and it is applicable across the board. There's no separate ruling for conventional banks or for Islamic banks. So the control, if there is any gaps in the control, then it will be applicable across the board, not just to an Islamic bank. So deposits are treated the same way. Customer deposits across the board in Kenya are treated the same way.
I think I want to obviously concur with my brother that that statement is misplaced, and it's not meant to be in good faith. If anything, actually, Islamic banks tend to have more sense of, should I say, care for their clientele, because of the lack of, for instance, I'll just give you an example, a bit technical, but for the sake of our viewers, because we may not necessarily have a good window of borrowing from the central bank because of the Islamic banking requirements for Sharia issues, we tend to have a lot of liquidity. We keep good amounts of liquidity in our banking systems so that we're actually always liquid for the sake of our clients. Add to that the fact that Islamic banks, by virtue of having a layer called Sharia supervisory bodies, they also is another additional layer of supervision, which conventional banks don't have. So if anything, I will say without fear of contradiction, Islamic banks actually tend to be much more careful in terms of trying to protect their clientele.
Shukran sana Mr. Nadif Jama for coming to our stations and business chat. Shukran sana Badru Jafar. Shukran sana Mr. CEO Abdullah Abdul Khalik for coming and sharing your thoughts on Islamic banking. Na mtazamaji, kumbuka kipindi ni business chat under Sabah show. Tumeweza kujifunza mengi kuhusiana na Islamic banking moja au mengine. Natumai umeweza kujifunza na kutoa kitu tashwishi ambao umekuwa nacho. Nimekuwa wako Ibtisam Jamal. Kumbuka hapo kesho utaungana na Mariam Mwacharo katika Stay Healthy. Nashukuru wote waliochangia na kufanikisha kipindi hiki. Kutoka kwangu, maasalam, tukutane tena Jumatano ijayo insha Allah.
Kwa jina nilobarikiwa nalo ni Ibtisam Jamal. Ungana nami katika Sabah Show
on Horizon TV.